Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Cars with Cuz, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to properly do an oil change on your car. So let's start this video off with everything you're going to need to properly change the oil in your car. The first thing you're going to need is the actual oil. Now you have to make sure that you get the right viscosity and that you have enough oil to change out. In my case, my car takes 6.3 quarts of engine oil. Now you can find how much oil your car takes by looking in the owner's manual or by doing a quick Google search. Just make sure you type in the year, make, and model of your car. You're also going to need a brand new filter, and in order to know what filter you're going to need, you can go to your local auto parts store and ask a technician, or you can go to Walmart and look it up yourself, which is what I did. All you need to do is select the make, year, model, and engine of your car, and it'll show you 3 different options, maybe more, maybe less for your car. Now I did check out these other 2 filters already. They didn't have mine in stock. I usually get Mobil 1 filters, but they only had Fram today, so that's what I'm going with today. So just grab your filter and then verify that the number on the filter packaging matches what you see on the screen. Up next, you'll need an oil drain pan so you have somewhere to drain out the old oil from your car into without making a mess. You'll also need a socket wrench to remove the drain plug underneath your car to get the oil to flow out. Now you could use a socket wrench with the appropriately sized socket, or you can use a wrench. It all just depends on what you have. And if that oil drain plug is really stuck on there and you can't get it off, then I would suggest using a breaker bar to loosen the bolt. You're also going to need a tool to remove the oil filter. Now this is the one that I use. There are multiple different variations of this tool. Some are specifically made for your car and your oil filter, but this one works the best for me as it works on multiple different styles of filters. You might also need some needle nose pliers, or in my case some hose grip pliers. This is in case your filter might have a seal that needs to be removed, or to put a new seal in on the new filter. These aren't really required, as you could still do it by hand. I just like to make use of my tools. You're also going to need a multi-bit screwdriver to remove some of the Torx bolts underneath the car in order to remove the skid plate. Now this may vary from car to car. Your car might have something else like regular screws, but my car has 2 different size Torx bolts, so this tool is going to work for me. I would also recommend that you get some latex gloves so you don't get any of the oil on your hands or on your skin. And also a roll of paper towels just in case you make a mess. Now for this last little bit, this is something that I just do. You guys don't have to do this to change your oil. So you're just gonna need some white tape and a black Sharpie, and I'll show you why by the end of the video. You're also going to need something to lift up your car. Today I'm using ramps, but you can also use a jack and jack stands. And in this last little bit, you're going to need to get a mechanic's creeper in order to be able to move around underneath the car. So now that you know what you're going to need to change the oil in your car, let's start this video off by going through these 5 easy steps anyone can remember. Step number 1, we're going to be removing the skid plate. Step number 2, we're going to be unbolting the drain plug. Step number 3, we're going to be draining the old oil. Step number 4, we're going to be replacing the old filter with a brand new one. And then step number 5, we're going to be adding brand new oil. So now that you know these 5 easy and simple steps, it's time to get to work. So let's start changing our oil. Now that we have the car in the garage, let's align the ramps. After aligning your ramps, make sure you have enough clearance to get up on the ramps without hitting anything with the front of your car. Now that you have your car up on the ramps, double check to make sure that the tires are properly seated on the ramps. After you've done that, pull up your emergency brake, and if you have a manual car, put it in first and then pull up the brake. Now shut off the car. And now let's find something that we can put behind the rear wheel so the car doesn't roll away. Now take your multi-bit screwdriver, insert the proper Torx bit, and remove all the Torx bolts to get the skid plate off. Now grab the skid plate, remove it, and a tip I have for you is to take all the Torx bolts you removed, put them on top of the skid plate, and put it to the side. Now take your oil drain pan and slide it underneath the car. Now you can take your wrenches and let's remove that drain plug. Now before you try removing this drain plug with force, make sure you have the right socket or wrench just so you don't strip the bolt. Now this is why that breaker bar is really useful, because sometimes these drain plugs are really stuck on there, but I'm pretty sure I can get this off with just a wrench. And there we go. Now that we have the drain plug loose, let's just unscrew it by hand, pushing up as we turn to keep the oil in. When you've fully unscrewed it, move it out of the way as fast as you can and let the oil drain out. Now this is going to take a while, so just let gravity do the work for you and let all of the oil drain completely. And while that oil drains, let's go ahead and take off the filter. Now in some cars you just have the filter. On this car there's a filter housing with the filter inside. So first you want to remove this cap, which gives you access to the drain valve, which when pushed on by a screwdriver, you can actually let the oil from the filter pour out without making a mess. However, unlike me, you don't actually have to hold the screwdriver there. You can just push it in and all the oil will come out from the filter. Now after that's done draining, we can get our oil filter pliers and remove the oil filter housing. In your case, you're probably just gonna have to remove the oil filter. After you've gotten the oil filter housing loose, just unscrew the rest by hand. And this is why I recommend that you wear gloves. Look at all this oil pouring onto my hands. As you can see, the oil is still pouring out. So instead of waiting, let's get our brand new filter and I'll show you how to assemble it. First, you want to start off by wiping down the filter housing, getting it as clean as possible, so when you go to put it back in, your hand doesn't keep slipping. Now go ahead and remove the old oil filter. And now you'll see why we needed those needle nose pliers, or the pliers that I'm going to be using, and that's because there's a seal inside here that you have to get out and replace with a brand new one. So just take your pliers and remove the seal. It's that easy. Now unpack your new seal and let's put it in. Grab your new oil filter and let's put that in as well. And there you go, your brand new oil filter is installed. But before we go put it back on the car, remember that we pushed up the drain valve, so we have to pop it back out before we go install it on the car. Now take the filter housing that you put your new oil filter in and just screw it back on by hand. Do not tighten this any more than by feel. Now I usually like to pour oil in my filters before I put them back on, but I had a feeling if I did that it would just leak out through the valve, so I didn't want to do that with this car. We'll just let it fill up when we start the car. Now take the cap for the drain valve and screw that back on as well. And now that all the oil is drained, you can put the drain plug back in. However, it is recommended that you replace the copper crush gasket on the drain plug itself, but since mine's in good condition, I'm going to be using this one again. Hand tighten the drain plug all the way. And then give it a snug fit with your wrench. So now you've replaced the filter and you drained out all the old oil. So now let's put the skid plate back on the car. Now it's not a good idea for your skid plate to hang like this, so let's take a Torx bolt and put one in the back so it doesn't break the clips. And now just screw on the rest of the Torx bolts. Now that we have the oil filter in place, the drain plug is back on, and we have our skid plate back on, it's time to do our final steps, so let's add the new oil. Go ahead and pop open your hood, or as our friends in the UK call it, a bonnet. So where exactly do you pour your brand new oil? It's not this. This is where you check your oil. Instead, you fill the oil here. And before you pour in the new oil, just make sure you clean this up a little bit first. Now, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I would also recommend that you use a funnel when pouring in your new oil. That way you don't get oil all over your engine. And now get your new oil, and it's time to start pouring it in. And remember, before you do that, you have to know how much oil you have to put in. And if you don't know how much oil you're pouring out, there's a little strip on the side that tells you how much oil you have. And now that you know how much oil you have and how much oil you need, you can start pouring it in. So that's 5 quarts, and we need 1.3 more to get to our 6.3 quarts that we need for this car. And that should be enough, so let's clean this up real quick and check our engine oil level. So pull out your engine oil dipstick, wipe off the oil, stick it back in, and pull it out one more time. And then check and make sure that the engine oil is in between the minimum and maximum lines on the dipstick. If you went over, you gotta drain the oil. If you're in between or just at maximum, you're good to go. And there you have it. You've officially changed the oil on your car. So go ahead and close your hood, check for any leaks underneath the car, and for any warning lights that may appear on your dashboard. If all that is good, then I can show you why I use that white tape and that black marker. So the reason I use the white tape and the black marker is so I can know when my next oil change is. And what I do is I take the car's current mileage and then I add 5,000 to it, because I always change my car's engine oil at 5,000 miles. So just take your black marker and write the mileage on there that you're going to change your oil at next time. It should look something like this. Now take the piece of tape that you wrote the mileage on and use scissors to cut out a nice rectangle. Now take the piece of tape and stick it onto your windshield. And there you have it, the mileage on the dashboard plus 5,000. That's your new mileage. That's when you change your oil next time. So with that being said, I hope you guys found this little tip useful. But that's not the only use for that white tape and black marker. You can also use it to label your oil. With that being said, that brings us to the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned how to change your own oil. And if you learned some tips and tricks today, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, then consider subscribing. So until next time, I've been Cuz, you've been you, and I'll catch you later.